Hello, and welcome to episode 7 of WIS Sports Radio's Ruck On, the Rugby Show. We're into the home stretch with the World Cup less than 2 months away. I'm Maria Sampson, Rugby World Cup silver medalist, recording out of Calgary, Alberta, and joining me again is two-time World Cup veteran and fellow silver medalist, Kim Donaldson. Good to have you back, Kim.
Great to be here, as always, Maria.
Awesome. On this episode, Kim and I will be branching out and talking a little bit about sevens this month. We'll also chat about the June internationals taking place all over the world and the last few test matches before the World Cup kicks off on August 9th. Now, with this month being June and our last episode happening in April, we obviously missed the month of May. Kimmy, why are we so busy?
Well, we both have lives outside of rugby, unfortunately. I think you were saying earlier, you've been tied up with work. Same for me, school and work. And unfortunately, rugby's taken a bit of a back seat. But both of us, I know, are so passionate about the sport. And there's so much going on right now. We really felt that we had to make some time for it this month.
Yeah, and the summer, other than in BC, when you think about the summer across Canada, many provinces, like I said, outside of British Columbia, play their rugby throughout the summer. And so there's club rugby, there's rep rugby. Yesterday in Calgary, there was a men's international against Georgia. So it's been busy. Alberta has been a busy summer for me so far, and it's not even halfway through June.
And MJ, I kept on receiving emails about an alumni event. Did you attend that?
So there was not an official alumni event here in Calgary, but there's one coming up in Edmonton. They have a fundraiser going up there. Yeah, the alumni is, I think I have 728 strong, both men's and women's, for the Rugby Canada database.
Great.
And so, yeah, it's fun. I think building that community will help the sport going forward as well.
Speaking of alumni, I'm going to segue into just a little bit about sevens. I had the opportunity to attend the Women's Langford Sevens tournament. So Langford is just outside of Victoria. And for the past few years, we've been hosting an international sevens tournament that's now on the circuit. I went for this Saturday, and I went with fellow Rugby Canada alumni Anna Schnell, now Anna Ray. And it was great. It was a great day of rugby. Saw lots of veteran players there, got to see Canada perform excellently on the Saturday. They had a fabulous weekend. They ended up losing to New Zealand in the final on the Sunday. Also, big announcement from Ashley Stacey. She announced her retirement. Ashley Stacey, of course, has been on the sevens team since its beginnings. She also played 15s for a time and then shifted over to the sevens, and has been such a huge impact and leader for not only the sevens team, but I think women's rugby in general. Just a consistently standout performances.
Yeah, when you think of ambassadors to the sport, I mean, Ashley's one of those girls that will just, give time to absolutely anyone at any time. She's living out of Lethbridge, which is, about an hour and a bit just south of Calgary, and she's doing a lot with the rugby community there as well. She was involved with an event in Red Deer, I think about a month ago, for youth development. So, I have a feeling that she'll be staying involved in rugby, but she has put her heart and soul into the sport for so many years. She was living away from her husband for a few years in the lead up to the Olympics. And I think, she's totally deserving of an incredible rugby retirement. And watching her on Instagram, she has all these posts about fixing up her backyard and doing a whole bunch of stuff around her house, which, a lot of times you just don't have time for when you're an elite athlete. So I think she's going to transition very well into the role outside of rugby.
And that's what retirement is all about, right? Making time for things outside of your rugby life.
Like recording this show.
Exactly. The other standout for me at the Langford Sevens was Fiji tied Australia The score was 24-24. If you've been to any sevens tournament anywhere around the world, Fiji always has fabulous fans. I don't know where they come out of. They come, they watch, they support, they're loud, they have flags, they sing. And it was so great to just get caught up in that environment. Australia obviously has been number one for some time. They are a class act team, and to have Fiji ranked considerably lower, tie them 24-24 was a really exciting performance.
Yeah, especially in a high-scoring game. And, thinking about where all these Fiji fans come from, well, there's just under 1 million people that live in Fiji, and there are more Fijians that live outside of Fiji than there are that live on the islands of Fiji. And I know this because my husband is Fijian, and he lets me know about Fijian facts very often. But they are very passionate about their rugby, of course, coming off the tail of the gold medal win on the men's side. And the women, incredible, incredible athletes, a very similar style in terms of offloads and free-flowing play. And so I think, as they become more developed in terms of having a national team structure, I think they're really going to rise up the ranks.
Yeah, they're so much fun to watch. Really, really exciting. The other bit of sevens news I have that I thought was thrilling, just for, I think, women's sport in general, Australia has announced that they will receive a 65% increase in funding. So for the next, for the next Olympic track, so $1.265 million next year.
That is huge.
It's huge. So, Maria, you and I come from, I'm going to say, grassroots programs in comparison, having to pay our way through many tours at every possible level. So for this to happen for our sister sport, sevens rugby, I think Australia is going to pave the way. England is stepping up in their 15s program. So just some really exciting things and potential for growth in our sport.
Absolutely. And the other thing that I love about this is Australia won gold at the Olympics, and there wasn't this idea where you could just, they're just going to continue status quo. They're already, kind of number one in the world, number two right now with the over the World Series. And I love that they are choosing to invest more in the sport to keep that goal, to keep that high level ranking, keep women playing the sport in Australia, keep fans interested. I think that's huge, especially on the fan side. For Sydney Sevens, they also announced that because that tournament is the men's and women's are at the same time. Last time it was run, the women, their quarterfinals were on a secondary field, not even in the stadium. And Sydney Sevens is now going to be run over a little bit longer period, so that the quarterfinals can be played in the stadium. So they're investing in their women's rugby, even though they are so highly ranked. And I think that's what's telling, is they're not, just sitting back thinking what we're doing is working. They're pumping money into it. And, that's going to go a long way considering what other nations, as you mentioned, England and among others are doing.
Excellent. Yeah, there's just so much growth happening.
Absolutely. So back to 15s now.
Okay, we have a bit to catch up on. I feel like last time we chatted, maybe the Can-Ams were happening.
Can-Ams and Six Nations had just finished up.
Right. Okay. So since then, there hasn't been too much. Some teams have had a couple of friendly tests, is what they're calling them. Let's see. In Africa, Zimbabwe won over Zambia 39-0. Now, that's not a competition that I typically follow. Out of Africa, obviously, South Africa has been attending the World Cup for the last few years, and I think are kind of heads and tails against other teams. But it's great that those other international programs are still getting tests despite that.
Absolutely, yeah.
The other things that are happening, Spain played Hong Kong. So teams obviously doing some preparation to move forward to the World Cup. So that score was 41-8. And then this one was kind of interesting for me. Ireland versus Japan. So Japan will be attending the World Cup this year for the first time. Am I right, MJ?
Hong Kong for the first time. Japan.
Hong Kong for the first time. Yeah. Ireland versus Japan, the scores were within 10 points. And in the first game, Japan was leading until the last 10 minutes, and Ireland came back to score 2 tries to win at the end of that first game. So Japan, moving forward, could be a very fierce competitor, giving Ireland, as you know, a very competitive team, a bit of a run for their money leading into the World Cup.
Yeah, and there's a very established men's professional league in Japan. So I wonder if part of this movement is starting up, sevens coming onto the board. And obviously, with how much women's rugby is just getting, more viewership and, is more on the forefront, still a long way to go. But, it's good to see Japan. It's great to see teams being competitive. And going back from Spain and Hong Kong. I mean, when we played Spain in the World Cup in our pool round in 2014, I believe they kept us to 4 or 5 tries. And I have to admit, going in, knowing the difference in rankings and how strong we were as a Canadian team, you sometimes think that there's going to be a little bit more of a blowout score, but they play a very, very quick game, Spain does, as does Japan. And I think, some of the best women's team in the world play exciting rugby. It's very much 15 aside versus, forwards doing their jobs and backs doing their jobs, back in the 1990s. That's what I love about women's rugby in general is all 15 players on the field at a time can basically play any role. And that's what's very neat about it.
Well said. Speaking of fast-paced games, should we talk about our friends over in New Zealand?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Heartbreaker. I was up and down. I couldn't sleep. We watched it here in Calgary from just past 11 till about, I guess it was, I didn't go to bed until about 1:30 or 2 in the morning because I was so fired up. But
Absolutely.
New Zealand taking the win 28-16 over Canada. I guess it was played on, that was Thursday night late. So it must have been Friday during the day in New Zealand.
Yes, I had a hard time figuring out exactly what time to watch it here because I kept on hearing about a Friday game time, which obviously with the time change means something entirely different. So what did you think about the game, Maria?
I mean, for me, the effect of the Black Ferns and having their sevens players come in was extremely obvious from the get-go. Sarah Goss, for me, who played flanker for the Black Ferns, she was the player of the game. I think, she had a ridiculous number of steals at the breakdown. She was the one that chased down Chelsea Ross for Canada when, literally there was a huge break that Chelsea almost scored on for Canada, which really made it a different contest, and Sarah chased her down. So I was impressed with the Blackburn Sevens players who came over. Portia Woodman, a little bit quiet. I think maybe just from her work around the sevens field, people probably expected her more, but she wasn't given a lot of space. New Zealand more scored a few times on broken play, and then of course an incredible maul was that very, very first score from Fiao Fa'amausili.
Great pronunciation. I'm glad you took that one. No, she's incredible. Captaining the team, tons of experience. And it was great for her to lead her team into the first try of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the Canadian side, I think there will be moments of the game they were very proud of when they got front foot ball and played that expansive type of 15-a-side rugby that they know they can. They were literally unstoppable. New Zealand couldn't get onside fast enough. And then sometimes we just shot ourselves in the foot with silly mistakes, not getting support play quick enough, passing behind players. I thought our back line was very, very deep, deeper than usual considering the type of strike runners we have in the centers. But, there was definitely moments of brilliance.
Absolutely. It seemed to me like there was maybe a bit of a case of nerves. I'd say the team right now is fairly evenly mixed between players who have played in at least one World Cup and players who are pretty new to the scene, so maybe come on in the last year or so. I believe all those athletes have been capped before, but just maybe a bit of nerves playing in Westpac Stadium ahead of the Hurricanes game. It's a pretty impressive atmosphere. Playing New Zealand, there's always certain other element to that. New Zealand has been so strong for so many years. It's hard to put that aside when you head into a match against them.
Yeah, and nerves play into who's going to be able to see the game. And there was a big announcement, I think within 48 hours of the game, that the game was going to be broadcast in Canada on TSN2, which was huge for women's rugby, being able to watch it on TV. and not just a shoddy stream. It's big strides forward.
Absolutely. My last two shout outs for that game. I thought Alyssa Allery had an incredible game on the wing. Her leg drive, so impressive. I feel like it took two or three New Zealand players to take her down. I was so impressed at how slippery she is. And then when she's in contact, she's not a huge athlete. So for her to keep her feet and keep that much momentum, I thought she was incredible in that game. And then from the New Zealand side, Stacey Waka put down some huge hits. I thought that New Zealand had quite a few big tackles that if I feel like I were in the stadium, there'd be a bit of a crowd roar.
Yeah, they came up really fast on defense, which was impressive and put a lot of pressure on our backs when they were getting the ball. England over Australia. Next game actually occurred right before the New Zealand-Canada game. 53 for England over Australia 10. And there was 11 first caps in that game.
Incredible. And they scored first, which must have been such a huge statement for them versus such an experienced side like England. I mean, as you know, England has so much depth. Their athletes come into the senior program having at least dabbled in internationals before. I mean, they have strong junior programs leading them up. I've coached the Canada under 20 teams the last couple of years, and there are several of those athletes who have already been capped. So they're starting to bring their athletes up and get them that full international experience earlier. So for Australia to have 11 athletes new to those full international matches, it must have been pretty special for them. Pretty special day.
Yeah, and they had an incredible number of new caps last year when New Zealand and Australia played late in 2016. So Australia, a lot of new caps. I think everybody, first cap nerves are a real thing. But yeah, getting those younger players in, seeing combinations, meshing in together, that would be big for Australia going into the World Cup.
Absolutely. For Australia, their captain, Ashley Hewson, she's the one who scored first. She was definitely not her first cap. I feel like she's been around for quite a while. I think she's been playing rugby for longer than some of these kids have been alive, to be honest. But what a great leader. I caught an interview with her, and so positive, just excited for the new blood on the team. And she said there was a really good vibe in that team. And so obviously all these teams leading up to the World Cup are trying to get their new caps in now, trying to get as much experience for their players so they don't feel that pressure when they get to the big stage in Dublin. So upcoming games. So out of the four teams who are playing in New Zealand right now, we have New Zealand versus England will be an incredible competition, and Australia versus Canada. Both of those games happening in Rotorua, and the New Zealand-England game happening ahead of the British Lions game versus the All Blacks. So again, just what an incredible atmosphere to play in.
Oh yeah, I mean New Zealand is rugby country, so that's really huge for those guys. And speaking specifically about the England versus Canada game coming up this Tuesday, which will be Monday evening, June 12th in Canada. Only two changes for the Canadian lineup coming up. Laurie Joseph then starting in at 9, and then Alex Tessier coming into 10 with Emily Belchos moving to 12. I'm personally really excited to see Emily Belchos play at 12. She's an excellent defender, and that might be a really good spot for her, especially, kind of playing a second 5'8" role. And for that match, England is making 11 changes from their team that faced Australia just a few days ago. So that's that's a lot of changes from one test to another when you think about it. And looking at their roster, they have one player with 3 caps coming in inside center, Megan Jones, and then, of course, the legend, Raquel Clark, 122 caps. She'll be going for her 123rd in a couple days.
Wow. That's all I can say. Yeah, it's so great that female athletes have that many experiences to play internationals.
Yeah, it's incredible. And then in July coming up, Japan versus Hong Kong, an Asian Championship doubleheader. Japan and Hong Kong played each other in the qualifier to get into the World Cup, and both of them did make it in. Fiji was unfortunately the team that was left out of that 3-team playoff, and then Wales versus Spain as well.
Yeah, so everybody, getting those games in before the World Cup. Surprisingly, though, for me, I haven't really seen much about France. I don't think they've had any recent competitions. I don't think they intend to. I think their last full international was at the end of Six Nations against Italy.
Yeah, I think I think you're right. I think they might have also had a doubleheader against the U.S. at the same time that we had Can-Ams.
Okay.
But since then, it's been very, very quiet about what France is doing. Mind you, they have that excellent, Center for Excellence where we were held for the Women's Rugby World Cup in 2014. So I imagine that they're doing obviously a lot of work together. France is a smaller country than Canada. It might be easier for them to get together. But yeah, it's interesting that they will not have played, full international since about that April timeframe.
Yeah, I mean, that team has lots of depth as well. I'm not worried about them. I'm more just curious what they're up to.
Yeah, exactly. And the Women's Rugby World Cup 2017 in Dublin starting in August 9th. Pool and final tickets are on sale. You can head to www.rwcwomens.com for tickets with games being played on August 9th, 13th, and 17th. And then there'll be doubleheader semifinals on August 22nd and the bronze end final on August 26th. Those World Cup pools: Pool A, Canada, New Zealand, Wales, and Hong Kong. Pool B, England, USA, Italy, and Spain. And C, France, Ireland, Australia, and Japan, which Pool C, I know Canada is not in it, but it's still my favorite pool that I'm going to be watching for because I think there's chances for upsets and some serious bonus points in those games.
Absolutely. I can't wait.
Chris Stafford is here now with news of other programs.
Tune in as former Hockeyroos player Ash Nelson hosts our newest podcast, The Circle, where she chats to the very best field hockey players from around the world. Ash also co-hosts Wisp World Australia, our monthly news magazine show which features all the top news, and they share all the scoop from leading athletes. And there's an all-new episode of the hilarious video show Backstroke and Boobs, where Sarah and Karen ask if athletes should have sex before a race. And we have a selection of blogs from some of the best athletes in a variety of sports. So check out the website and follow your sporting heroes at wispsports.com.
That's it for this month's Ruck On. Thanks, Kim, for joining me. Looking forward to getting at least one show in before the World Cup starts in August.
You know it.
We'll be back next month with more on women's international rugby. In the meanwhile, be sure to visit wispsports.com for a wide variety of conversations from the world of women's sports. Join us too on social media at wisports, and I'm on Twitter at MariaSamson5, and Kim is at Kimmy Donaldson. We'd love to hear what you think, or if you have questions, comments, drop us a line to info@wisports.com. Until next time, thanks for listening.